Good evening, campers, and welcome back to the Campfire. I'm glad you made it. Tonight, we have two stories that will make you question the government and your own reality. So bundle up, get cozy by the campfire, and let the nightmares begin. When you have a job like mine, you have to lie to everyone you know, even your family. As far as they knew, I oversaw a team of project managers focused on supporting efforts to increase the efficiency of cooling systems for vehicles carrying microfibers and plastics. It's bullshit, but so boring, no one ever wanted to hear about it. Why the secrecy? I was a dream technician, working in a lab buried deep within an underground military black site. My job was to program dreams in real time as an enhanced interrogation method. The government uses ultra-realistic nightmares to get the worst of the worst to divulge their secrets. I've seen fearsome gang leaders and highly trained spies sobbing like newborns, telling on everyone they'd ever known. The system is extremely effective. Using state-of-the-art tools, we measured a user's brain waves to create digital animations, nightmare scenes, which were then implanted into their mind during an induced hyper-REM state sleep. Dream technicians can modify what the user sees in real time. As they experience the dream simulation, a grainy feed is broadcasted onto a monitor and live streamed for central command. During my time as a dream technician, I saw a number of horrifying nightmare scenes. A demonic infant swallowing and regurgitating a man over and over again. A sea of wriggling leeches as thick as tree trunks. A harem of spider women feeding on live prey. And so much worse. I'm only mentioning the tamest of dreams. The majority are too nausea-inducing to recount. I thought I'd seen it all, until I met James, no last name given. In stark contrast to the other prisoners, James was meek and mild-mannered, sporting a greasy bowl cut with large wire-framed glasses. Short and pudgy, he waddled down the hall shackled at the ankles, a charade of guards escorting him. The guards seemed nervous, despite their numbers. He was the most passive prisoner I'd ever met. Every command was obeyed, and he didn't struggle or screech explicitives as he was hooked up to various whirring machines. When he did speak, it was slow and muffled, and mostly to ask about lunch. The man was more bland accountant than menace, but somehow, he'd been classified as one of our nation's greatest threats. When we connected James to the monitor, things went differently than usual. His nightmare was a fantasy land. It was peaceful and serene, an ideal world that even the most rotten of humankind would enjoy. James, on the other hand, was writhing in agony. I'd never seen a user experience such pain and duress. Usually, once the participant entered a heightened state, the upper brass would direct me to ask a series of questions. Who do you work for? Who ordered the murder? Where are the bombs located? That sort of thing. This time, they just sat and watched, whispering and taking notes. This went on for hours, the dream machine pumping James full of peaceful and calm visions, while he screamed until his vocal cords were torn to shreds. The military leadership looked on, furiously writing onto leather notepads. I'd never been more frightened. It's not what I saw in James's nightmare, it's what I didn't see. What was he? If that was his nightmare, what were his dreams? I shuddered at the answers. I knew then and there that James was the most sadistic, predatory, terrifying prisoner I'd ever encountered. It wasn't even close. The session with James ended unceremoniously. A call came in, an order was made, and James was removed from the machine. As soon as the dream stopped, he reverted to a soft-spoken simpleton. There were no residual effects. James was outwardly unfazed by the hour-long torture session he endured. Before leaving the room, James shot me a sly glance and winked. "Tell Judy and Henry I said hello. See y'all real soon." I couldn't breathe, spots of darkness taking over my vision. Judy was my wife, Henry, my only son. How could a prisoner in the world's most secure and secretive facility know that information? No one else in the room heard what James said, and even if they did, I had a feeling I was on my own. No one could help me. That was the last day of work. My family and I left behind everything. Our home, our friends, our entire lives were uprooted in an instant. I had to lie to my wife and son. I knew the truth was too outlandish for them to believe. They knew someone was after us, and our lives were in jeopardy. I felt that that was enough. It's been 3 weeks, and for the first time since abandoning home, I had a dream last night. In my dream, I was sipping a colorful cocktail on a white sand beach, a light breeze washing over me. It was paradise, but it was hell. It was my worst nightmare. I'm awake now, but the feeling isn't going away. I'm living in a waking nightmare, and the situation is rapidly deteriorating. James is here with me. Or maybe I'm James. Or maybe James never existed. It's all the same to me. All I know is that James isn't happy. Judy and Henry make him very mad. I'm very mad too, and this knife feels right in my hand. I was born and raised in this little gem of 5 cities, California. I had nothing but good memories for many years while growing up there. Memories of my first kiss, skateboarding downtown, surfing, and playing sports with my friends. I wouldn't trade these memories for the world. We have great weather, shops, restaurants, beaches, and even a butterfly national park. It truly is a little slice of heaven on earth. But something freaky has been happening recently, and I'm the only one who notices it. My friends and family think I'm crazy now. A few days ago, after work, I decided to head to the beach to unwind by myself. As I parked my car and started walking towards the sand, I noticed something laying near the shore. As I drew closer, I stopped in my tracks when I saw what I thought was a body. It was bloated, with blue peeling skin. It was a male who looked to be around 40. I screamed and pointed at it as other beachgoers all stopped what they were doing and looked at me in shock. A female in a wetsuit grabbed me and tried to calm me down and to figure out what was wrong with me. I looked at her in confusion and shock when she asked me that question. How did she not see it? How did no one else not see this? I pointed towards the body again and said, "There's a dead body right there on the shore. How are you people not seeing this?" The woman and the other beachgoers looked towards where I was pointing and then looked back towards me. They all had either looks of confusion, annoyance, and even some amused, as if I was joking around, and someone even chuckled. The woman then told me to grow up and that the jokes like this are not funny, before walking away while shaking her head. Most of the other beachgoers were in agreement with her, but a few teenagers called me a great actress. One woman even scolded me while holding her crying child, that I clearly terrified with my terrifying story. They all eventually went back to their business. I stood in frozen shock for a minute, before slowly turning my head back towards where the body was, hoping that I only imagined it. But it was still there. A few little kids were stepping on it as they ran towards the water, which confirmed I was the only one who could actually see this. I knew I couldn't stay there any longer and headed back towards my car. I wanted to call the police, but what would I tell them? Hey, cops. I see a dead body at the beach, but no one else can see it. So can you guys send someone down here? I knew that it would be a waste of time, so I just headed home instead. I told my mom what happened, and after listening to me, she assumed that I watched too many horror movies. You've always had a very active imagination. Get more sleep at night and stop watching scary movies. That was her advice. I called my best friend and told her the same thing, but she laughed and told me to avoid laced weed. My own best friend made fun of it. I spent the rest of the day being paranoid and freaked out. What was happening to me? I had a night filled with terrible dreams. I saw that same man screaming for help as ocean waves dragged him down into the darkness below. I woke up in a cold sweat around 2 in the morning. I felt something in my body that told me I had to go to the beach at that moment. I don't know why, but I didn't hesitate. Something came over me. I wasn't afraid to see the corpse on a dark, empty beach. I threw on a heavy jacket, put my shoes on, and drove back down to the beach. Nothing was on my mind other than figuring this out. Once I got to the beach parking lot and stepped out of the car, I felt a creeping sense all over my body, but something kept pushing me forward. I walked towards the shore of the beach, and I saw dark figures all lying near the water. I knew that they were all human. There had to be at least 20 bodies there. I used my flashlight on my phone to see them better. Some were kids as young as 5 years old. They were all face up, lying on their backs, looking towards the night sky with horrified, dead blank eyes. They all looked like the man that I saw the day before, bloated and pale bluish skin. But that man's corpse was nowhere to be found. I still wasn't convinced that I was truly sane anymore, so I began taking photos of the bodies with shaking hands. They were all visible in the pictures. I was completely relieved that there was something paranormal going on now, and that I wouldn't need to be thrown into Arkham Asylum. I then hurried out of there and headed back home. I didn't sleep at all. I just kept staring at those pictures I took of those apparently invisible dead bodies. I decided to send them to a few friends of mine to prove that I wasn't nuts. But every one of them asked me why I took pictures of the beach in the dark. My best friend that laughed at me earlier then told me that I may need to go see a counselor or something. She was not amused by my antics. I truly am starting to feel like I am going crazy. I didn't stop at the beach after work today, but I did drive by it afterwards. There were even more dead bodies there. Many were on the sand next to beachgoers, but no one could see them. Some people stood on top of them while admiring the ocean from the sand. One man even had his beach towel spread over the top of a female corpse and was lying on top of it. How is this possible? I hope that someone hearing this will believe me. I can't be losing my mind. Does anyone know what I'm dealing with? I'm beyond scared and confused. Please, help me. Hey campers, it's Tails here, and thank you so much for listening. If you're hearing this, that means you made it through the nightmares without passing out. Good job. Also, don't forget to become an official camper by subscribing to the channel. We do have unlimited s'mores and scares. But I have to get back to the fire now. I need to add more wood to it. Stay haunted, campers. I'll see you next time.